Welcome to That's So Savvy, the podcast where we dive deep into the stories and journeys of remarkable business leaders. Join our host, Nancy Aichholz, a seasoned professional and experienced entrepreneur, on her mission to discover the recipe for business success.
Welcome to That's So Savvy. It is cold winter here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. I have another great friend here today. My guest today is Elisabeth Galperin. She is the founder of Peak Productivity. She is a productivity specialist, and yours truly is much more productive from working with Elisabeth. So I have firsthand knowledge of what she does. But Elisabeth, you tell our listeners all about Elisabeth and what is peak productivity and how did you get there? What's your entrepreneurial journey to get where you are?
Well, Thanks for having me, Nancy. I always enjoy sitting down and having a conversation with you. This is a great opportunity to help people at the beginning of the year to get clear on goals and productivity. In addition to being the owner of my business, I am a mom of two boys, so boy mom and dog mom, which are proud little hats that I wear. My first career was more in the education space. I was a speech and language therapist. I worked in public schools for a couple of years in North Carolina.
Yeah,
I didn't last very long. Really, where my entrepreneurial journey started was when I left the public schools and went to work in a private practice. And while I was a clinician in that setting, I also rapidly started taking on more and more responsibilities of running the practice for the owner. And that was where I realized I really loved business, which if you'd asked me in college, I had two roommates that were in business school and my third roommate and myself, we were in education. I just couldn't understand why my roommates would want to go into business.
Our Barbies did not have businesses.
No, I really got the bug a couple of years into running, helping a business for a female business owner who empowered me to lean into that.
Love it.
I am one of those individuals who I've learned to be more of a risk taker, but naturally not a risk taker.
Oh,
I was straddling, continuing to work the 9 to 5 and be the employee, but started exploring if I wanted to run my own business, what would I want to do? I wanted to get out of education. Healthcare in the private practice was really hard and the greatest challenge. And so I thought, if I don't want to continue in this space forever, what do I want to do? My mom helped me to identify what are some of the strengths that I naturally have that could lead me in a different path. In 2007, I dipped my toe into owning a business. And it was definitely, back then we would call it a side hustle.
And now at this point, were you still in North Carolina?
I was, yes. I was newly married, no kids. I call myself a recovering perfectionist and busybody.
Gosh.
Back then it was every minute I felt I needed to fill with something. And so I would work on the weekends and the evenings and any nook and cranny in my calendar.
I think we all had a phase like that.
Yeah. I can easily slide back into that. But started my business in 2007. Really, I was helping individuals get organized, both in their homes and in their businesses.
I need that part.
Yes. So that was where it started. And like every other entrepreneur that you've had on this podcast, there have been iterations and iterations.
That's what I think that's the definition.
It is.
Of entrepreneurship.
It is. Yeah. And again, it's been a learning curve for me because I am a planner and I follow the rules and follow the path. But I slowly recognized that I loved working with professionals and I really loved supporting them with more of their business goals and the professional side of life, not organizing their homes and their closets.
Disorganize them once you leave.
It's, it is much more critical that their business and that professionally they stay organized and productive and have goals and achieve them. That evolved into, I work with business owners. When I started to recognize that the outer disorder really came from inner disorder, that was where the coaching and the consulting and helping individuals with the bigger picture of productivity became my passion.
It's what I've really enjoyed, among many things, other than we always have a good time and have lots of great conversations. And you've gotten me really focused on routines and habits and things like that. But you're great about the psychology behind productivity, not just the how-to. You get out of that task list pretty quickly and have that global perspective. Because even though you do focus on the business side of people's lives, if my closet's a mess and I can't figure out what to wear to get to the meeting at 8:00, then I'm kind of a mess. So
you can't separate them. We are both professional and personal all the time. And that's really where my background in speech language has helped me, because I understand how the brain works. I understand our behaviors. I understand attention challenges, language challenges, and communication challenges. And so that's really where often people will say, how did you go from one career to the other? And for me, I see the connection all day long. Yeah.
When I think about the entrepreneurial journey is you move forward, you hit a roadblock, you pivot, you move forward in a slightly different direction. You move forward more, you hit another roadblock, you pivot again. And eventually it all just winds around back to where you were trying to head. And so when people think that roadblocks and halts in the path are failures or reasons to stop, like, no. It just means it's time to look at it through different eyes. I think you're great about that. Let's talk a little bit about how you communicate all this to clients. Are they individuals? Are they groups? Are they companies? How did you build that aspect of your business? And who are those people that you're helping?
Well, I think that anyone who's owned a business, at first, you're willing to work with anyone, right? And I have worked with so many different types of people, ages and stages of life, different types of businesses. That has helped me to really recognize where can I make the greatest impact and who can I jive with best. The individuals and the businesses that I serve currently, oftentimes, definitely in a leadership position where one of my own core values is walking the talk, right? And so leaders recognizing that if they have the objective of creating a productive team, they have to demonstrate it. They have to be able to define it for themselves, model it, and then hope to impact kind of the domino effect. And so leaders who are already highly driven and understand the value of high performance, but leaders who also want not just to impact themselves, but to help impact the entire organization. And so my ideal situation is where I am working with leaders one-to-one, but I'm also working with teams, doing trainings so that it becomes part of the culture and part of the company values. So everyone is rowing the boat in the same direction.
Yep. And you did that for me, my company, and, some individuals in the company, and really, it really paid off. I mean, it was great to get everybody thinking in the same way, using the same language around being productive. And also for you as a business owner, being able to coach one is great, but being able to coach many is so much more productive. You're using your time wisely, reaching more people, expanding your network, hopefully being paid more to talk to a group than an individual. I think that was a really smart business move for you.
Being a business of one, it is important that I find opportunities to have the greatest impact on the greatest number of people. As I step in front of groups and run day-long programs, goes back to that educator in me, which is why I started pursuing education. Ultimately, my goal is to teach and guide individuals towards their success.
It's always been on the same path. Those pivots.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
Absolutely. It's just different students in a different environment these days.
Exactly. And we're all lifelong learners, or should be. I hope that I'm still learning things when I'm 102, learning new things and accepting new viewpoints. Otherwise, how boring.
Really what makes a client for me ideal. Someone who understands.
That's your favorite.
Of course. Going back to that, my understanding of how people learn and communicate, that we all have our unique ways. And so as leaders who want to create a high-performing team, we have to understand all the different ways that individuals can be high-performing. Productivity can look different for each individual, whether based on their role, or it's based on their experience, or even it's based on, are they in the office? Are they at home? And so one of my latest missions is getting folks to redefine productivity for themselves and for their teams in non-traditional or outside the box.
Right. It isn't just having something to do every minute of the day.
Yes.
It's all about accomplishing those goals.
Yes.
Like you can work 2 hours a day and accomplish your goals. And you can work 10 hours a day and not get anywhere.
Exactly.
I think you're really good at that. Keep your eye on the prize.
Quality over quantity.
Yeah.
And I think in the current climate in work environments, leaders have to understand that because the younger workers want to be there to contribute and they want to see how they're contributing in valuable ways. And they're not necessarily going to be willing to clock in and clock out 10 hours, 5 days a week. And go through those motions. Absolutely.
And I found that as a boss, I love that mentality. I would much rather have somebody kind of have their own schedule and trust them and have them do what we're trying to do to accomplish the goals than somebody who's just, I'm here, 8 hours a day. It's so much more productive. Let's switch gears a little and talk about productivity itself and some of the things that you teach people on this podcast. We know some of your savvy secrets about how you got where you are, but what are some of the savvy productivity secrets that you like to teach people? Like, what are some of those aha for you at Second Nature now? But when you meet with the clients for the first time or you're in front of a group for the first time, what are the ahas that they get from you?
I think we all know that technology can help or hinder our productivity, but what I really find impactful is for my clients to go through an exercise of really seeing how much technology drives every minute of their day and why. A lot of it is habit. And oftentimes we have habits that don't serve us anymore. So, I think one of the savvy secrets to productivity is technology can help, but it isn't the only route. Finding ways to have constraints, right? Sometimes technology makes things less personal and productivity is equal parts getting things done and relationships and face-to-face conversations and time spent together. I think one of the most ahas that clients will often have is recognizing how much time they're not present. They're hiding behind a screen or stuck in an office, getting things done, but is it quality? Is it investing in people? Is it building relationships? And that leads to a rebalance, right? How am I defining productivity today? If I'm in the office, I am going to invest in some water cooler talk. I am going to get in a room with individuals. Could I have put them on a Zoom call? Yes, but when we're truly in person, we're more creative, we're more interactive. And so recognizing where can technology help, but where is the productivity? It's in the details of spending time together, being where your feet are, as people say. Are you truly present or are you just there?
If I look back at things I would do differently or better along the way, most of my mistakes happened electronically, one way or another, whether it was a text that went out too fast, an email that got responded to too quickly. Somebody misinterprets what I've texted or said, especially with employees. They're assuming a tone that you don't have. And being able to talk to people, even in those difficult situations, as hard as it is, sometimes you just got to do it.
Absolutely.
It always pays off.
Yeah. I think another important thing to think about, and technology often allows us to isolate more, but our most productive experiences, projects, initiatives are when we're relying on other people, right? Or we're delegating, or we've created a sense of accountability. Entrepreneurs especially, you have that mentality of I can do it myself. I can do everything myself and I can prove that I don't need anyone. And that can serve us to a certain degree. But I would say that one of my lessons early on was tapping into a mastermind group. It was 5 other women-owned small businesses. We were all figuring it out and realizing that I could be vulnerable with them I could tell them about my mistakes or my fears and my worries, and that it was okay to ask for help and rely on someone else. It goes back to that traditional definition of being productive. How much can I do? How much of the load can I lift myself? When really most of us, if we look back, it's when we're with the team, right? Or we have multiple hands that make a lighter load. And I think that's something that technology can, because it does allow us to do so much from the comfort of our couch or our home office with no one around. We don't tap into that power of accountability.
Right. And I think in entrepreneurship, you start with the idea of being an entrepreneur. Well, you quickly become a founder because you found your company, which then leads to a CEO position, typically for the founder or CSO, depending what their skills are. At that level, you have to have a team.
Yes.
And you have to be able to be a team player and a team leader. People forget that entrepreneur is going to evolve into a CEO, and you got to act like one. The team is critical.
Yeah.
So what are some other savvy secrets that you like people to have?
Well, I'll go back to that idea of defining a productive day or a successful day. Every day gets to be different. But if you don't declare the win at the start of the day, the other people's needs, other people's emails, other people's meetings, that will fill up every minute. You may have gotten a lot done, but by whose standard? Sure. Declaring the win, mapping out what a successful day looks like before you step into the day. We've all heard the saying, plan the work and then work the plan. And that also helps. Currently, the statistic is every 2 to 3 minutes for individuals in an office setting. Every 2 to 3 minutes, we get distracted or interrupted. If we don't have our plan mapped out for the day, if we don't know how we want to finish the day, then all those distractions and interruptions, they're detours, right? But if we don't know where we were headed to begin with, we're never going to keep our priorities at the top of the list. Get to the end of the day and we'll say, well, I did a whole lot today. Yes, but nothing that I felt was important.
Right. A couple of things that you helped me with that I think have just been critical in how I plan out a day, a week, a month, a year, now a 10-year vision. One was writing down what the ideal week is and what an ideal day is and time blocking those things that I have trouble making myself do. Working out, having my quiet time, starting and ending my day with a time that is just to start and end my day. That was a huge help. Those things were huge. That ideal day approach. Oh, I know. The other thing I loved is you helped me give each day a theme.
Yes.
And that's been really important because even though on my marketing day, I do things other than marketing, but that is the day, if something is going to get done, that's the day I'm going to do it.
Yes.
Unless there's some other interruption that tells me I have to have something on a different day.
Right.
Having money dates with myself twice a week for home, business, volunteer, all the things.
Right.
Anything financial. So my brain isn't flipping back and forth between all these different sides of the brain and parts of the brain. And that was hugely helpful.
Yeah. And that goes along the lines of, for a long time, multitasking was considered a great skill to have, a requirement to fulfill a job. But we know that when it comes to work, if part of our brain is thinking about the finances and the other part is thinking about the clients, and we're trying to address all these things and pack it into a couple of hours or one day, that we might do a lot of it, but we're not going to do any of it super well. Allowing ourselves to unitask is the opposite word.
Love that word.
It is seeing something through before we stop and pick up something else that either caught our attention or is more interesting. Humans thrive in structure. We love the flexibility and choice. But if we have too much choice, if we have zero structure, that works against our natural wiring. And so going to one of your favorite savvy tips here with having an ideal calendar, it's creating consistency and predictability into the day and the week. so that you can naturally move into those different types of activities. And again, you're not asking your brain to bounce between 8 different things in 1 hour.
Right. I love the feeling, and that this has come from working with you on goal setting and then having all my tasks work towards a goal of some sort. What I love is in the past, I'm a list person. I have to admit, I'm a recovering list person. I love the checking off.
Yeah.
But now what I really love is checking off the fact that I finished a project.
Yes.
Like, oh, I'm actually done. I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. That project just impacted this goal. And now I might be able to move that goal off and have a new one.
Yes.
Which is really fun. So it's kind of like the grown-up to-do list. It's more cerebral and it's more productive.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It just feels better.
Yeah. And when we can see that what we're spending our time on throughout the day and then throughout the weeks is building to that bigger vision, that's why we all are leaders or business owners, because we have this big vision, right? The more we have evidence and see the progress, that's why we're here. That's why we're showing up every day. And that's what gives us the motivation and the drive to start the next big project. Right. It is a balancing act, right? Being able to be boots on the ground, but also being able to elevate yourself and say, because I followed my time blocks this week and because I was consistent with these different areas of my business, I see that I'm now 50% towards the goal, or I'm going to get there sooner than I anticipated. So being able to look at your activities from the ground level, the treetop level and 50,000 foot view it's important to be able
really
to.
Good. And as I'm getting farther along in my career and had lots of experiences, those goals are still really critical to me, because otherwise it would be easy for me to just hang around and not get much done. Those goals are really helpful no matter what stage of life. So as a mom with young boys, getting bigger all the time, how have you impacted their productivity? Because they've got lots of sports and school and studies, and we're starting to get into those harder classes.
Great question. One of the things that I think my husband and I have done well is we have kept some reasonable constraints with how much they get involved in. I have a lot of peers whose kids will be in 3 sports at one time, or they're on 3 teams for the same sport. The message that we've given our boys is when you make a commitment to a team, a coach, or a sport, to be all in. And you can't do that if you're trying to spread yourself too thin. So keeping them committed to a small number of activities at a time, not that they can't change their interests and change their activities. And then going back to the idea of walking the talk, I really am intentional, and I'm not always successful, but I really am intentional with them seeing that I do work hard and that I do turn it off. That there is family time and there is work time, and that they both have a place. And we talk a little bit about the balancing of it.
Yeah. And good to do that now. They'll take that with them into college and beyond. I think awesome, because I really feel like, having been on school board for a lot of years and really looking, and then having my own kids, our high school students are amazing. They're like little adults that are doing better things than we are. But their days, oh my gosh. I mean, I remember looking at my kids and thinking, how are you not just, I would be exhausted.
Right.
Exhausted, like not just physically, mentally, emotionally, and you're learning and you're making all the friends and helping our kids get a break. Is really valuable.
Yes.
Yeah.
And checking in with them from time to time about, is this still important to you?
Yeah.
Is this
or am I doing this because I said I would?
Right. Are you still having fun?
Yeah.
Reminding them of the real why behind all the doing is really important as well, right? Because as parents, we have our own prerogative. And sometimes we drive and we forget we've got passengers.
Exactly. And I think as adults, we forget to have fun.
Yes.
We forget to say to ourselves, am I doing this because I'm enjoying it? Or am I doing it because I said I would and now I'm stuck? And not that you should bail on everything just the minute it doesn't get fun, but make it fun again. That's another big important part of being productive. If you're not enjoying it, like I love to work, and I love it more when I'm focused and productive. When it gets scattered and chaotic, it's not as much fun. For me, the fun is going to my planner, regrouping, refocusing, and accomplishing what I say I'm going to accomplish.
Right.
I think we might be getting to the end of our time. We literally could talk for weeks.
We could.
But I have a couple of fun questions for you.
Okay.
What's your favorite life hack? If you woke up tomorrow anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Okay.
You can answer this one either way. What's in your oven? What do you have baking that our listeners might want to know about?
Well, I'll start with that one because I grew up in a household where my mother loved to cook and my sister followed suit. And I have come to realize that I do not enjoy cooking. And I have given myself permission to not require that of myself.
How are you doing that?
Well, it's allowing things to be simple and, allowing someone else, whether it's picking up the chicken that's already been roasted at Kroger or tonight we're going to have eggs and toast for dinner. And that is okay.
Yeah.
So what's in my oven is what's going to make this stress-free for me tonight. I'm not going to feel guilty that I'm not preparing meals the way my mother did.
That's great.
If I could wake up anywhere, I'll answer this because I'm seeing the snow out the windows. I would love to travel across the world to Australia. And I'm not a great traveler. So if I could just close my eyes and blink a couple times and be someplace warm and completely different than where we are now,
it would be great.
Warm
It's where you need to close your eyes and wake up there because that is a long flight.
Exactly.
And a lot of hours of time difference.
It's a lot of lost hours. Right.
Well, this has been great. Do you have a seminar or anything open to the public coming up anytime soon?
So I have a lot of speaking engagements that will happen in 2025. About once every other month, I'm up at University of Dayton speaking or hosting a full day training on productivity and time management. And that's open to the public. In terms of being around town, I'll have to get back to you on a couple that might be open to the public. But my website keeps events updated. I love to check in with people on LinkedIn. So if you connect with me there, I will always be sharing tips, tricks, and events that folks can find me at.
We'll put all this in the show notes, but what is your website?
My website is peakproductivitycoaching.com.
Great. Thank you, Elisabeth. We will be seeing each other again soon, I'm sure, because we have, 2 months before second quarter.
Yes.
And Elisabeth and I like to touch base on our quarterly planning. We did a great yearly.
We are great accountability partners to each other.
We are.
And it's always fun to check in and report our successes and revise any goals that we are still working towards.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here today.
Nancy, appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Sure. Just a few reminders. Don't forget to follow us and subscribe to our podcast. That's So Savvy Podcast. Give us a review and make sure it's 5-star. And the reason that we ask for that, of course, it is 5-star. We have all these awesome guests. But the reason we ask for that is that the more 5 stars we get, the more the podcast becomes available to more people and more people can learn from our wonderful guests. Also, be sure to follow us on all of our social media and follow our guests on their social media, which will be in the show notes. Thanks again for being with us. Everybody stay warm, and we will be back in a couple weeks.